Organic versus synthetic. Now that's a topic that we don't talk about too often. Both great, both great ways to feed the plant. You know, you got synthetic, really shows you how far mankind has come to supplement nutrition for these plants. And then you have organic, you know. There are two ways of organic, right? One, of course, is the liquid version, where you make a lot of liquid emulsions and whatnot. Your secret sauce, you know, basically saturating, you know, the medium with that nutrient, thus the plant over time uptaking that nutrient. And then you have, you know, the KNF style, where a lot of those material, instead of making it liquid, you know, you're making it to where you're putting it in the ground and you're just letting it, you know, do its thing. You know, that right there, and time, you know, Mother Nature and Father Time are the two, you know, are the two things that really make that happen. To where we're just the stewardesses, you know, we're just there to make sure that things will and maintain. So, but which route would I go? Which route would I go? Which route would benefit me, the plants, and, well, of course, everyone after me? You know, who would reap my fruits, the fruits of my labor? And let's start off with, you know, the medium. You know, soil. Let's all start off with a plot of land. Now, a plot of land, organic, you know, we set up minimal coverage as far as like greenhouse goes. You know, trying to keep it self-sustainable without too much human interaction. That's my take on the organic route. That's what I would do on my plot of land. And then I would, of course, on this plot of land, the goal with organic is leaving something behind for the next generation. Not just the pots that we grew in, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna leave my kids in a fucking hydroponic system. Right? Nah, you know, I'm gonna leave my kids this plot of land. If they choose to build a hydroponic system on this plot of land, you can't really say anything, right? It's pretty much them, whatever they do. But anyway, my plot of land, what I would do is I would, of course, start preparing the soil. I would start making sure that I build an ecosystem within the ground. Not just above it, under it. You know, what people don't see happening, that's what I will try and build in the ground, of course. And then I would keep building. I would just keep building. I would stack building blocks, right? I would stack building blocks. how do I stack building blocks in my soil? Well, you got to look at it as, what would soil have in it if we wasn't here? Picture your plot of land brand new, fresh, right out of the Garden of Eden. The soil pretty much has everything. It has life. It has death. It has everything in that soil. So creating that in the medium, would be my goal. Making the building blocks. Doing that building, making the building blocks, what happens is it takes time to build the building blocks. And then once you start putting your plants in there, it'll take time for those building blocks to break down. And during that time, you can get many cycles out of your soil. Many cycles, depending on how far you build. Now, example, I would build 4 to 6 months, sometimes 1 year if the year was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Not, as far as time goes with building soil, there's no time that should be wasted. Even when your garden is looking dead, there should never be a wasted opportunity. You should be always building that ecosystem underneath the ground, even during those times. Now with the synthetic, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take two sides. Why? Because I can. You know what I'm saying? What works for me works for me. What works for you works for you. But this is a discussion. This is basically, it's not a debate. This is how I feel and my routes. You already know what route I will go. But if I have to play both sides, let's just say, John, I live in the cold. I live somewhere with rain all the time. I cannot go outside on this plot like that. I need to grow inside. Okay. Of course, you got, the diehards like myself. Well, it's like, but you can grow organic inside. Some people, they don't like the stink. Who would like the stink in the house? Or on this, you know what I mean? Who likes, you know what I mean? That's, you know what I mean? With synthetic, a lot of that stink is cut out. That's why a lot of folks love synthetic, because the stink. There's no stink to it. When you venture into KNF, you get really stinky. You get super stinky. That's why I love KNF. I don't love the smell, but I love the teachings. But I really like simplicity. That's why I grow the builder soil style. But anyway, back to the synthetic garden. So with this, on my plot, I will, it's freezing. I live in the boonies. It's snowing all year. There's no warehouses out here. I can't buy soil. Or I can't even make soil. I can't buy the products. I need to grow out of, hydroponic rocks, lava rocks, coral. I need to grow out of these things with my synthetic Okay. You know, I haven't gotten to a point where I was in that predicament. But as far as longevity goes, it can be sustained, but of course with a cost. Whether it be electrics to run the pumps, you can do aquaponics where it's a total living ecosystem, but that's organic. We're talking about hydroponics here. Hydroponics, synthetics, whatever the case may be, it's great, but short term. When you're 70, 80 and can't do much, it is an easier option. Because organic, you know, it takes labor. I had a guy, you know, who was in a wheelchair. He could only grow with one pot. And it was a big pot though, so he would wheel around it, but it's possible. So, the thing with synthetic is there's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of upkeep with synthetic. Or organic, there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of downtime, there's a lot of laid back, but there's more labor. With the more downtime, with the more relaxing, you work harder. Work hard, play hard. Relax hard. Synthetic, it's a constant on mode. I have to dial in. And if you guys know anything about dialing in, that takes some discipline. That takes discipline. To dial in on synthetic, that takes discipline. Smarts anyway. My buddy, first time right off the rip. Right off the rip, he went with synthetic and he did great. All the fruits from his labors were amazing. But he was in that garden long time. He was, yeah, man, every 3 days he had to feed. You know, even with organic, you know what I mean? People go all out. With organic, you start to learn less is more. But with synthetic, you know, more is more, and then a lot more can be devastating. Wipe out your entire harvest. With organic, it's once the stewardess is gone, it's done. For a moment in time, the garden will thrive, depending on its environment. Now, let's just say you were in the best environment. Organic, as far as the plants, will outlive anything. Whereas synthetic, unfortunately, your garden is boxed up. Once the stewardess of the synthetics is gone, everything is gone. Everything is shut. And then to come back, restart, you gotta get all new things, because after every harvest with synthetics, you always gotta do a cleaning. when with organics, like strictly organics, you can pick up right where you left off. Literally chop everything on the soil. Everything that's dead, chop everything. And just bury them. Water them, bury them. Chop them up, bury them, water them. Land material. Right. 2 months. Synthetic, you gotta start all over. Brand new, one day. So, each side has its ups and downs. But to me, it would be organic. And that's my take on the discussion of organics and synthetics. Holy snap. Y'all take care.